Hi, hi, hi.
Hey, I
I'm
just want
sorry if you're waiting there for a few minutes. I just started talking about you and I got so excited, so I just kept going.
to find you a little wiggle room. Thank you.
I love the lip. You're looking gorgeous as always.
Thanks. Thank
How's
you.
your quarantine going?
Look so gorgeous. Um,
I had to dress up for you. I got these new earrings and I figure, since we're not going to be seeing each other in person anymore, we really have to give glamorous video chat looks.
Absolutely.
I know that you have been having the time of your life while quarantining. How's it going?
It's going so amazing. I have obviously been in a relationship, and so I've been able to get to him, so much deeper than I would get to know someone that I'm just like dating, because you're spending
Right.
every other and beautiful. And I've actually used like taken this time to not so much focus on bettering my appearance or
Oh my God. We're good. Wow.
um,
It's just like your words were so truthful. My phone just dropped. It did a death drop. My phone was like, yes, Demi, and then dipped.
yeah. um, I've been doing a lot of work on myself internally, and I've done this much in a really long time.
Right.
It's pretty.
Right. I feel the same. I feel like I've really been going in, digging deep, surfacing a lot of things that I've been needing to deal with. And we're going to talk about some of that today. But I wanted to do a brief little intro for everyone who's joining in. My name is ALOK, as in Tell Me a Joke, ALOK. And I am the author of the forthcoming book, Beyond the Gender Binary. Oh, Debbie's got one too. Hey, all the cool kids have it. And this book is coming out on June 2nd, but you can order it now at the link that is tagged in the comments. And you can also donate a copy to a young LGBTQ person. And I wanted to explain why I'm doing this campaign before Demi and I have our conversation. So this is really sad to talk about, but in 2020, there's been over 20 states that are introducing anti-LGBTQ legislation that are targeting trans young people. And that's so unacceptable because these kids are already dealing with so much bullying at school, so much invalidation at home. But then to have the government tell you that you're wrong, like, that's just, ugh. And so I was thinking, how do we support young LGBTQ people right now to show them for Pride that they're loved, that we care about them? And I came up with this book drive because I wanted a way to affirm our community when we can't come together in person this year. And so I've partnered up with organizations across the country to distribute these books. And in honor of me and Demi being from Texas, the organization that we're shouting out today is called Out Youth. They're a drop-in center for LGBTQ teens and young people in Austin, Texas. They've been around for 30 years, which is amazing. And, we're proud Texans, but there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. And so it's so important to have organizations like Out Youth, and they're going to be receiving some of these copies. So during our conversation, we're going to be trying to get people to donate ally copies to LGBTQ young people at the link there in the comment. And right now, I have my computer right next to me. We have 2,220 more to go. So I'm hoping by the end of this conversation, we could maybe get to like 1,600, or we could even.
There's 5,000 eyes
Oh,
on chat,
oops.
so just get to your goal.
Okay. You heard it from Demi herself. So if we could even hit the 5,000 today, that would be amazing. And if you want to comment a rainbow emoji once you donate, we're going to
Yes.
shout you out too. So comment a rainbow emoji for Pride. Okay, Demi, I know that you and I both dealt with a lot of bullying in school, and that's something that we're really passionate about. How do you cope? Like, say if there's a young person right now who's watching, who's dealing with a lot of bullying and harassment at school, how do you cope with bullying?
Well, I could do it the same way that I just saw those emoji posts.
Yes, emojis.
Um, I think Nah 1.2 put a bunch of vomit emojis, and I read about those emojis in your book that you talked
Right.
about. And I think the way that I deal with it is I look at Nah 1.2, and I think, what is it that that person is dealing with that's
Hmm.
causing much pain and so much suffering that they take it out on people they don't even know on the internet, on a live stream, to
Right.
hope that. And it's like when I read in your book the part about those vomit emojis, I get the same emoji. They're not vomit emojis. It's needles or spoons or drug stuff. And for me, I used to let it eat me alive. I used to let it really affect me. And then I got past it because I realized I'm so okay without the opinions of other people.
Hmm.
Um, that I don't care what anyone thinks of me.
Right.
And I didn't spend this quarantine trying to lose weight or trying to write a best-selling book or doing things that know, weren't as important to me anymore. What was important to me this quarantine was working on myself, doing intensive trauma work that I've put off for many, many years because I've been too afraid of knowledge that things are in my past and they're coming up and I need to deal with them. And, um, you know, the way that I deal with bullying is like I look at those people, they haven't done the work on themselves that they need to, and it's causing them pain, and I just feel sorry for them.
Right.
Like, also, I feel sorry because sometimes I think, imagine meeting like your dream soulmate, right? And then you have to tell that soulmate that you left a comment on something,
Right.
trying to be mean and bullying them. And it's like,
Right.
but what your soulmate would obviously not agree with that if they're the soulmate that you deserve. And
Right.
it's just like, just think, you know what I mean? So that's how I deal with it. I don't take it seriously, and I just understand that pain comes from pain. And if they're hurting me, then
That is so real. And, it's taken me a long time to do that work because I think for a long time when I was growing up in Texas and getting harassed, being told that I was too girly, that I was a faggot, that I was too weird, I didn't have anyone to tell me you're beautiful and you're valid. And I think you can only heal when you have someone in your court, when you have someone who says, like, hey, I believe in you, and it can counter what the people at school are saying about you, And so thank goodness I had a close family. Thank goodness I had an older sister who defended me. But I think one of the things I really want to say is you showing up for me and you showing up for trans and non-binary youth right now is so, I'm going to get emotional. It's
okay.
so powerful because so often people forget about us. In feminism, they forget about us. They're just talking about straight cis women. They're not talking about LGBT and especially trans women and gender nonconforming people. In the gay movement, they forget about us. They're not talking about trans people. And everyone just leaves us behind. And we really need more allies because it's high school, but it's the world. It's
Right.
everyone bullying at us. It's everyone trying to throw laws at us. It's everyone making memes about us. They'll take photos of us and make jokes about us. They'll demean our appearance. It's like it's constant invalidation, and it's just heartbreaking because all that we're asking for is for people to say it's not okay to do this. But
Yes.
what do you think it is that prevents those kids on the playground from defending the people getting bullied? Like, how do we change culture to get people to stand up for other people who are not like them?
Well, I think that the most important thing is awareness and education. Because if you're not educated and you're not aware, you don't realize you're doing anything wrong. And so there have been times throughout the years where I've learned, oh, this is a derogatory term. That is not the word that you use to
Mm.
call, like I, I was aware. I learned a lot actually when Caitlyn Jenner did this interview on 2020, I think, and
Mhm.
they went through the terms of like what's okay to say, what's not okay, and that piece did a lot for me as someone who was already, I think, privately identifying as queer. Like, it did a lot for me because here I am, like, identifying as a part of the community, but I still didn't know some of the
Right.
terms that not okay to say. And I wasn't saying them, but I just didn't even know they were bad. And that was my ignorance of not being educated on it. And sometimes it takes someone like Caitlyn Jenner on that platform to spark a conversation, to spark that awareness and education. But yeah, I mean, recently I went through this thing where I realized I wasn't being an ally as much as I could be to the Black community.
Mm.
And post after Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed, and I just felt like I was like laying in bed the night before, and I was thinking like, I'm not doing enough, you know. And I realized it was because I was scared that I was going to say the wrong thing, you know, as a, you know, I'm Hispanic, but I'm white passing, you know. So I was like, what is my responsibility as an ally? And I learned that I have to put my fears aside and speak up for all of the people of color that I love, all of the people of color that I don't know, and the people that are being like treated poorly because of it and abused and killed. You know, it's now happening way too much. I was like, I need to put my fears aside of people thinking that it's either, you know, I just didn't want anyone to question my intentions, and because I am white passing. And so then I was like, I'm just not doing that anymore. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to be an ally. And I think people need to do the same with the trans community. And I really consider myself an ally because I guess when I was reading your book, there's a lot of it that I relate to. And I'm not non-binary. You know, I definitely agree. I think that I thought what was so interesting was how you said that the idea of gender binary kind of came to in the 1700s, because before that, people had a widespread belief that that humans are both male and female. And that is what I identify with. You know, I identify, there are masculine parts of me and there are feminine parts of me. And as I've grown on a spiritual level and done a lot of work on myself, you know, I came to your show with Sam and I left and I was like, oh my gosh, I have masculine parts of me. Does that make me non-binary? And it created a question in my head. And then I later, you know, as I thought about it more, I was like, no, I identify as female and that's okay. But it is my responsibility as a cis queer woman to be an ally for the people that aren't as privileged as us when they deal with the things we're talking about in your book, taking pictures, asking you insensitive questions, not realizing that they are bullying you by trying to prevent you from being bullied, things like that. It was amazing.
You're dropping so much knowledge right now, and I want to respond real quick.
Yeah.
I think that what you're saying right now about the violence against Black Americans, all of us who are non-Black need to be speaking up against this, because Black people have been speaking up against police harassment since the beginning, and no one was paying attention. And now it's time for all of us to amplify those voices. And the same is for every minoritized or marginalized group. We need to all recognize that there's no dignity living in a world where Black people are being attacked, where trans people are being attacked. That's not a country that we can be proud of. And that's why when I tell people, when I'm asking for your support for trans rights, I'm not saying, hey, I support those people over there that are just different, I have nothing in common. I'm saying this matters to me. And when you're having conversations with people who are homophobic or transphobic, you need to say, it hurts my feelings that you're homophobic and transphobic. And to recognize that, like, the world that we want and the country that we want is where no one gets attacked or policed on the basis of who they are. We don't want to live in that society. Exactly. And then when you're talking about your gender, I really wanted to link that back to the book. And for those of you who are tuning in, we're talking about Beyond the Gender Binary. We have a book drive. We're donating books to LGBTQ young people across the country. Comment a rainbow emoji if you give. We'll shout you out. The link is in my bio, and the link is pinned here in the comment section. One of the points that people don't get is when I'm saying moving beyond the gender binary, I'm not just saying non-binary rights. I'm saying moving beyond the gender binary helps you no matter how you identify, because it gives you permission to define what woman means to you. And that's exactly what you were just saying. Your womanhood has masculinity. Your womanhood is your womanhood. And there's it's not a one size fits all. And what the binary does is it makes man a one size fits all. Oh, you're too sensitive, then you're too feminine. And then if you're a woman, oh, you have bold ambitions, then you're too aggressive. And we push people.
You put it in your book that that the gender binary is, completely agree, because it forces all of those societal norms that men are supposed to act a certain way and women are supposed to act a certain way. And I do think it's so wild that there's so many differences in the human race. Why are we only given two options? Like what?
Right. What? Like, I know you and I love makeup. Imagine if there was only like one lipstick color or two lipstick colors. It was just unambitious. And so I'm trying to tell people gender can be a form of creativity. You can play around with it to express yourself just like everything else. And I see you doing that. It's like you're so versatile in your fashion, but with our I'm Ready music video, which was so fun to work on together, you being on that diving board in a suit was such a moment for the world, because it shows like you can be glam, you can be fierce as fuck, and you can wear a suit if you're a girl, and you can wear a dress if you're a boy and still be beautiful. What was it like for you to film that?
I thought it was such a power statement for me to be in a suit and heels on a diving board with a bunch of people around me swimming. It was so cool. And I was so excited to be a part of that video. Sam means so much to me. We connected, we met years ago, but we didn't really like connect on a friendship level until we wrote and recorded the song together. And so excited after that experience, because I knew in that moment that I gained a real genuine friend that is so much more than just another artist in the industry or another. I was like, wow, this is a really special friendship, and I need to protect this and take care of it and water it like a plant, you know, like
Totally.
And acceptance. And when Sam took me to your show, I was just blown away. And ever since then, I want to, that show really changed a lot for me, actually, personally, because I realized that I wanted to surround myself with more people that are eager to learn about issues and are eager to make a difference, to make change, to speak up. And I've just like, it really inspired me a lot. And
Thank you. And I want to link that to the point you were making earlier about doing your trauma work and healing, because the truth is, when you focus on your healing, you're able to love and show up for other people harder, because you develop compassion. And that's the thing, is like when you take pain and you sit with that pain and you process that pain and you feel it, on the other side is a deep and resonant love. And for me, it's like I could be so bitter, I could be so angry at everyone, but I'm trying to transform a culture of violence and pain and actually take all of the negativity and turn it back into like extreme love and forgiveness for people. But that only happens when you're doing your healing work. And I'm going to be really honest with you. A lot of people in the entertainment industry have not done their healing work. And I think that's why you and Sam are so exceptional, is because both of you had to sit down, look at your life and ask, what is actually important to me? What actually matters to me? Because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. There's a lot of people think that if you just make it successful, you're happy. That's not happiness.
No. I can tell you firsthand, you can have a lot of money and still be very unhappy if you are not doing the work on yourself or surrounding yourself with the right people or not speaking up for yourself or living your authentic truth. I think another beautiful thing that you said in your book was you said, I'm risking my safety for authenticity. And that should be, that needs to be heard by everyone. The fact that trans people have to risk their safety to be themselves is just a horrible thing to think about. And I don't know, I guess I woke up with this thought this morning, which was really interesting. I was like, you know, I could have used this quarantine to do what a lot of haters online want me to do, which is, for me, it's not, it doesn't have to do with my gender, but for me, it's people comment on my weight or whatever. And I could have gone into this quarantine and lost a bunch of weight. I've done it before. I know how. I know exactly how. I know the healthy ways. I know the unhealthy ways. I know how to do that. But it was more important for me to sit through this quarantine at a weight that I'm uncomfortable at, to make peace with my body, to accept where those emotions come from, why I'm feeling that way, and to do all of that. It just, it really made me look at myself. And I'm so glad, you know, I think taking the easy way out would be conforming to society and doing what people want you to do, which is suppress yourself, quiet your uniqueness. And that's the easy way. And that's never where change comes from.
And that's where depression comes from.
Yes.
Because I think you and I both know this. Like, I write in my book, like, when I was younger, I had to live a fantasy of what other people wanted me to be. But I was not, because I was not living my truth, I was in deep pain all of the time. Because I felt like people loving me was contingent on me erasing myself. And the parts of me that felt most beautiful and most dynamic were the parts I had to suppress in order to be lovable with the people that I was around. But what I really want to tell people listening is, like, conformity is not community. No. Conformity is not community, because then the people who you think are your friends only care about you in so much as they can use you. They don't care about you when you're struggling, when you're depressed, when you're lonely, when you're hurting. Real love comes from people who love you for your weirdness, for the parts of you that are different, your awkwardness, your clumsiness. That's where love lives. Love doesn't live in this kind of myth of perfection. How did you learn that you are worthy of love for you, not for the world, not for the kind of like pop star, like skinny white girl that the media wants to create?
You know, I have a really interesting story, and I have recently had a near-death experience in the past few years. So that shook up a lot for me. And when I had some time to think after my overdose, you know, I was thinking, like, what parts of me are unhappy? Why am I here? You know, and I realized that I suppressed my voice for many, many years. It trying to act and do and be someone that I wasn't, not to the public. It was mainly, I've talked about this in other interviews. Like, some of the people that I had around me weren't supportive of my recovery and my food recovery. And that led me to SNAP. And obviously I was the one that picked up. I was the one that put myself in that position. No, I can't blame anybody but myself for that. But years of suppressing authenticity put me on my deathbed. And that's an important thing to remember, that if you aren't speaking up for yourself and your needs, what you need, even if it's just in your relationship, like if you're not telling your boyfriend, hey, I feel not paid attention to, or something, I'm feeling vulnerable and sensitive, they're not going to know to pay you more attention. You know, so you have to be authentic to your wants and your needs. And when I started listening to what are some of the things in my life that have held me back, you know, some of the beliefs that I thought that I always had to be totally skinny to be happy. And I don't know, I've changed that, and I've really started making an effort over the past several months to do things that make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So today that was, instead of doing a regular workout, I jumped in the pool and did a pool workout, you know, because I have more fun in the water. And it's just things
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'm listening to my intuitive needs rather than maybe I should get out and do a regular workout and lift weights because it'll have more of a result. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I'm doing what makes me happy. And that's ultimately the most important. And the life that I live now, I've said this before in the media, but I didn't know what freedom was until now.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know what freedom was until the last few months of my life,
Mm-hmm.
where I have really truly been free of darkness, and I've restored that, my faith, through personal growth, which is journaling, meditation. It's you know, for me it's my religion, and other things. But
I am just like vibing so hard. It's so
yeah.
hard with the like live setup because I just want to like scream and cheer and throw a million emojis because what you're sharing is the truth. Like, no one wants to talk about this, but I feel like you are one of the few people really naming it. It's about spirituality. It's really like authenticity is one way of talking about it, but it's really about connecting with your higher purpose. And the
Yeah.
truth is, I fundamentally believe that we each have a purpose and
Mm-hmm.
that everything is trying to distract us from our purpose. There's so many things that are trying to say, go here, love here. But if you actually do that healing work and returning to yourself, returning to the self that existed prior to everyone erasing you and disappearing you and telling you that you're wrong or too fat or too gender nonconforming, if you silence all that and you return to your noise, there's so much clarity there. And you realize, wait, this has always been there. So it's not about becoming a new self. A lot of people are like, how do I build a new me? I'm like, no, it's about reclaiming the parts of you that were the most dynamic and loving and empathetic and compassionate, because I believe that our default is not competition. Our default is not selfishness. Our default is profound love.
Acceptance.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. You know what they taught me in rehab in 2019? They said the opposite of addiction is connection. I firmly believe that you can't connect with people unless you are engaged on a spiritual level and you have consciousness for other people's whatever they're going through, their private relations. You know, you can't connect with people unless you have compassion and empathy for others. And I've used all of the time and all of the stuff that I've been through to really just kind of take a look in and think, okay, I may never know my purpose, but I continually try to figure it out every day. You know, what is my purpose today? And if my purpose is just to love all my dogs so that they feel special in the world,
so be it.
Or maybe it's hopping on this live chat with 4,800 people watching to tell them that they're beautiful just the way they are.
Just the way they are. Yeah.
Or they're worthy of love just the way they are. You know, my purpose changes every day, and I may not know the purpose to my whole life, but everyone does have a purpose. I do believe that.
And the thing is, it's fluid. And that's another thing that I'm really trying to get across in the book. And I want to say shout out to, it would look like Kim Kardashian, but I think it was Kilt Kardashian for commenting the rainbow emojis. For those of you tuning in, comment a rainbow emoji if you're getting a book to donate to an LGBTQ young person at the link in the comment section that's pinned right now. But I feel like fluidity is a concept that I see in both of us. Like, you've been making music for a long ass time. And in the beginning, you were a punky emo rocker. And on the other side, you're still a punky emo rocker, but it just takes a different form. And I really believe that in one life, we live many lives. And that there's actually so much possibility for transformation every day. Tomorrow, I could wake up and say, I hate the color pink. I'm wearing all black for the next year. And that's okay. you can shift and you can grow and you can transform. And what I love and admire about you is that at so many places in your life and in your career, there were incentives to stay still and to stay quiet. But you refused that and you said, I'm going to move. I'm going to change my management. I'm going to change what I'm doing with my career. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to focus on me. And you spoke up when it's unpopular, because that is exactly when we need to speak up, is when it's unpopular. And that's why now we need to be speaking up against the rise of anti-trans discrimination in the US since 2015.
And uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people don't want to talk about things that are uncomfortable to talk about, which is why I held off kind of talking about issues that didn't necessarily pertain to me for so long, because I was afraid that people would think that I didn't know about what I was talking about, or they would kind of, you know, I was afraid of people thinking that I was, for instance, when I did the Really Don't Care music video, I think in like 2013 or something, I did my music video at Pride in LA, and I was the grand marshal, and it was amazing. And it was such a cool experience, but I was terrified on that whole time and after, that people were going to think that I was just using the LGBTQIA plus like community, and because I wasn't ready to come out and say I'm bisexual. And I was terrified, and I think that that might be a reason why some people are still terrified to speak out. I think especially heterosexual men are afraid to be allies to trans people and queer people because toxic masculinity, you know, it's like, I think there are things we need to like get past. We need to get past the fear and become allies to people and to speak our minds, even when it's uncomfortable for us who are speaking up. You know, there are people in need, and that's so much more important than my fears. And I need to act because someone might listen to me before they might listen to the person in need. And that's what we all need to do. There is a social responsibility to your neighbors to take care of them, to love, or to just treat them with respect.
I'm just here saying Demi for president. Yes. Honestly, I'm like, I'll be your VP. It'll be amazing.
Yes! Oh my gosh.
Yes. Imagine. I mean, we might have to, depending on this election goes, but I just feel like one of the things I've been really feeling during this pandemic is I wrote this poem where I have a line that says, I'm sorry it took a virus to help me remember that we all breathe the same air. And what I was trying to say by that is like, this is a moment where we should recognize how connected we are. That someone who's in a village in China is related to someone who's in a penthouse apartment in Manhattan. That there's actually this myth that we create, that it's like us or them, or it's the US or it's Mexico, or it's man or woman. And it's all made up. That actually air is circulating between all of us. Ideas are circulating between all of us. Love is circulating between all of us. And true power comes from interdependence. And interdependence is to be able to say, I need help. And I think that what I love about us and our healing is you learn that one of the most brave acts you can do is say, I need help. Because when you were talking about being afraid of performing and people thinking you were using the LGBTQ community, that's because we live in a culture that doesn't allow people to figure things out. We live in a culture that doesn't allow people to be a work in progress. We want people to be finished, polished, perfect. We want people to just know. But it's like, actually, we need to educate each other. We need to love each other. And I think that's really why I wrote this book. You know, like at this point in my career, I could have written a book that would have been like really inaccessible to so many people. But I sat down, and I think you did this in your career too, when we're talking about pop music. How do I reach the most number of people possible who need this message of love and compassion? And so I sat down and I thought, how do I write this accessibly? Because so often people will be like, I want to learn about trans issues. It's just so complicated. And I wanted to create one definitive handbook. You could be like, nope, here, read it, educate yourself.
What I loved is at the end of it, you had these questions, like, how do I respond to if it says, there are undeniable differences between male bodies and female bodies. And then you give...
And I'm like, pow, 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 pow.
Yes. So great. And I actually was reading this out loud. There were so many parts that I just thought were so brain melting, like in a sense of like mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? Where you're just like, oh my gosh, why haven't I ever thought about that before? And you drop so many golden nuggets that they're all in here. And so I couldn't be more supportive of you, this, you know, organization, the drive, everything. Like I am just blown away.
It means so much to me, and I don't want to. I know I could talk to you for like 10 hours, so I'm going to wrap
Yes.
up. I have one final question for you, but before that final question, I just want to say, everyone, we're talking about Beyond the Gender Binary, which you can order right now to donate to a young LGBTQ person in need. These books are going to Idaho.
Here, everyone go get one.
Everyone go get one. Even after this live, click the link in my bio. It's right there. We're giving these books to Idaho. We're giving these books to Wyoming. We're giving these books to Texas. We're giving these books to Utah, to Missouri, to places where people are lonely right now, to places where people don't have love and validation, who might not have supportive communities. We are their supportive community, and we're practicing love, because being LGBTQ is not just an identity, it's a verb. We have to learn about each other's particular struggles. We have to show up for each other. And we just say, we're not free until all of us are free. And I want especially to speak to other cisgender people watching this. Demi is modeling what allyship looks like. It's about saying, even as a cis queer woman, she's not free until trans and gender non-conforming people are free. And in order for all of us to be free, we have to move beyond the gender binary and create a world where people are valued for their creativity and not their conformity to stereotypes that were made in the 17th and 18th century based off of sculptures, not human beings. Human beings are awkward and dynamic and fuzzy and fat and dark skin and gender non-conforming and hiccup and fart and dream. You know, human beings are complicated and thorny, and I could keep on going on, but my final question for Miss Demi Lovato is, and it's a serious question, so sorry to bring it down. The New York Times just released this really haunting graphic of the names of every person who has died of COVID-19. And they're now estimating that there have been almost 100,000, if not more than 100,000 people who have died in the United States, the highest death rate in the world. And so many people who are watching right now have sick relatives, have people who are in hospice, have people who are afraid of dying. And there's a lot of death in the world right now. And I'm going to get emotional. My grandfather died in February, and you were one of the first people that said, like, if you need to process grief, call me, because there are very few places in the world to actually feel grief. We're celebrating our people on the front lines, as we should. But I'm also worried that we're putting off this grief. And when we put off grief, it can actually destroy us. And I've been trying to learn in my own life how to use my art as a way to process my grief, as a way to deal with my pain, so that I'm not suffering. And I feel like, you know, when someone you love dies, everything changes. Like your life, you feel their absence. And I just feel like there's so much death and there's so much grief in the world right now. So my final question for you is, how do we cope with grief? And what does healing look like when people that we love are dying?
So this couldn't be a more relevant question. I lost someone just a few weeks ago, actually.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
One of my super companions, and worked as a house manager in the sober living. And I didn't know how to respond because I hadn't spoken to her in like 8 years. So we weren't close. But I've experienced a lot of grief in my life, more than I would wish on a lot of anyone. But what I said this morning while talking about grief with somebody was, I don't believe that death is final. I genuinely believe, in the more that I have lost people. In the beginning, when I had only lost maybe a grandparent or a distant cousin or something, you know, I used to think that was the end. I'll never see that person again. But I lost a friend last year, and I have felt that person with me at multiple times in my life so clearly and so evidently that I can't explain it to other people other than maybe it has to do with my spirituality, but I just feel the presence of people that have passed on. I presence, you know, with my father, with my great grandmother, who I was so close to. I just feel closer to them now.
Mm.
And sometimes you have to remember that grief is really confusing, and there's no manual, there's no handbook. You know, you don't know how you're gonna feel. You might go from waking up sobbing to laughing an hour later, and that
Right.
doesn't make feelings less valid.
Right.
It
Right.
makes the pain less valid. You know, it's important to let the emotions surface. Where we get into trouble is when we suppress our feelings through behaviors that are harmful to our mental health. And then we're not being authentic. And that's where you get into that real danger zone of like, if I'm ignoring any of my emotions or something that's going on, if I'm not being true to myself, I'm putting myself at risk and my mental health at risk.
Right.
And the first step is just accepting that whatever feelings come up are okay. They're natural. You might have a roller coaster of emotion, sleep for a week. You might not feel phased at all, you know, because you're not ready to process that. And there was one year where I lost like 7 loved ones, 5 people, and 2 dogs within 8 months. And I put that off for so many years that I'm just now processing that grief.
Mm. Mm.
That makes where we stand as a society after this, where there's a lot of death that we have to take time to catch up to process. And that's also okay. But just remember that during this time, it's important to let those feelings and emotions surface so that we can move past them as naturally as possible. Because ultimately, it's like when you take a painkiller after surgery, it's like sometimes you're just delaying the pain. Sometimes you just need to face the pain in that moment and just be like, you know what? I can get through this moment because I know that if I hold off on painkillers for too long, then I might feel pain when I wake up and not know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So grief is really confusing and weird, and everyone reacts differently. There's no right or wrong, but what's important is that you feel whatever comes up for you.
Wow. And with that, thanks so much, Demi.
Of
I
course.
really appreciate you showing up as an ally for this book, for me and my life. And I think it's really a model of what I want to see the world being, is that we all show up for each other. We educate ourselves about one another. And we say, that's my friend, when they are deporting people who are positive with COVID to Haiti. We say, that's unacceptable. That's my friend. When
Yeah.
they are having this routine and systematic police violence against Black people, we say, that's not okay. That's my friend. When
Mm-hmm.
they're coming after trans people, we say, that's not okay. That's my friend. We understand that when they're coming for one person, they're coming for all of us, and that we're stronger together. And
And
that
none of
we,
those things are taken care of, because if they're doing it to them, they can do it to us. You know,
exactly.
not a person of color. You know, I am Hispanic, but I am white passing. Like who's to say that a police or someone isn't going to do that to me? And I'm not saying that all police officers are bad. There are so many amazing police officers, but when people aren't held to the consequences that everyone else is held to, who's to say that we aren't all in danger? And that's where it gets very important to address.
Right, absolutely. And so I think some of the themes from today's conversation, for those of you who are just tuning in, we've been talking about Beyond the Gender Binary, which you can now order from my website, link in my bio and link pinned right here. And you can donate a copy to an LGBTQ young person in 50 states across the country. Thank you to everyone who's donated. But I just want to rehash the themes of tonight were deep love and compassion, were interdependence, we're not delaying pain because it actually festers, but actually confronting it. Confrontation and courageous conversations and vulnerability. That true happiness and meaning and beauty comes from actually what society calls ugly. from like breaking down on your freaking bathroom floor, from like eating 10 tubs of ice cream. It's in those moments that you truly achieve that thing you've been reading about forever. And this is not just about trans and gender nonconforming people. Authenticity is something that we're all fighting for. And the trans struggle is a struggle of authenticity in a world that prescribes social conformity. So check out Beyond the Gender Binary. And thank you so much, Demi, for having this conversation with me. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate you more than you know. And I love you. And I'm always here.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Bye.